No one can win. What's up, guys? I'm Pencil, and here we're going to do a breakdown and discussion on Kenjaku versus Takaba, and whether or not Takaba can win, or whether or not Kenjaku can win, or if this battle will really have a definitive winner, and why I ultimately believe that, realistically, this is a battle that no one can win. But at the same time, I don't think anyone can lose. Ultimately, this battle could have massive ramifications, or it could be a stalling tactic. It can fall in so many different directions, and we have so many different things to talk about. So let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. What's up, guys? I got Pencil here. Fun fact, I have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, if you didn't know, battles typically are won with a little thing we like to call win cons. Now, for people who don't know what a win con is, I can explain it to you. It is a way for a character to beat another character, or a group of characters to beat another character. The reason that the battle between Gojo Satoru and Ryomen Sukuna took so long was literally the longest fight in the series by, I think, like double the amount, was because neither character had a clear win con. Gojo had a win con in Unlimited Void and Hollow Purple. Hollow Purple was mostly off the table for the fact that he wanted to keep Megami's body relatively in one piece, and Unlimited Void was off the table because Sukuna had specifically counteracted that. And unfortunately, due to the Infinity, pretty much every single one of Sukuna's traditional win cons, aka Cleveland's Mantle, aka the Fire Arrow, aka anything else the man had to offer, including other aspects of the Ten Shadows, were not available to him due to Infinity alone. Yeah, that's really it. Like, Infinity was the main thing that was stopping all of Sukuna's win cons. Notice, the moment, and I mean the moment, a proper win con that could not be hard countered by something the opponent did appeared in that battle through Spatial Slash, yeah, the battle ended. And JJK is very specifically a series that deals heavily in matchups and win cons. And that leads us into the discussion of the current battle. Takaba Fumihiko versus Kenjaku, the curse of 2 millennia past. Maybe more. Who knows how old Kenjaku actually is? I don't even think Gege knows. But the reason I say neither side has a win con in this scenario is because Takaba, unfortunately, he kind of can't take anybody's life. If you know what I mean, like, very specifically, you can see it, his only major battle in the series up to this point, Takaba versus Hazanoki. Hazanoki couldn't exactly execute him, but at the same time, Takaba couldn't actually get him up out of here either. It was this weird dichotomy, and it's explained in the manga that the reason that Takaba had 0 points, despite being a seemingly very powerful sorcerer, powerful enough that the crew said, fine, throw him at Kenjaku, it's because the man literally cannot slay people because he doesn't find the red, or in this case, the funny. And that's an issue when you need to beat somebody. Notably, it seems like this extension of negation of the red, it goes to the point where Takaba can't even win by knockout. Now, of course, we're working with a very, very, very small sample size, like one fight that was mostly off screen, but while Takaba's powers allow him pseudo immortality, reality manipulation, pseudo, like, honestly, like, kind of RCT, kind of not, insane bulk, realistically, like, outcome denial, or like, I don't want to call it probability manipulation, because that's way too good for what Takaba has. But legitimately, we see as recent as Chapter 239, Takaba basically cannot fall. If he ever is about to fall, reality will literally just undo itself due to the nature of the comedian. But as a byproduct, it also makes all of his opponents essentially immortal as well, because he'll never slaughter them, whether it be to his own mental block or something of the sort. And at the same time, his opponent will never be able to slaughter him. Now, seemingly enough, before Chapter 239 and before the comment section on my videos I made about Chapter 239, I could have sworn that the comedian was a passive technique in a very similar style to the Infinity. You know why Gojo Satoru was in a rough spot whenever Malevolent Shrine was active? Because Domain seemed to turn off passive techniques. And I thought the comedian was a passive technique, meaning that Kenjaku, and technically any character with a domain, had a win con on Takaba. But now, at least based on what Kenjaku says in 239, allow me to see if I can quote this bad boy directly. Let me see. I do believe Kenjaku says in 239 that, well, technically, for all intents and purposes, his attack did happen. It was a thing that did indeed transpire. However, in the long run, that didn't really matter. Because even though the attack transpired, it didn't transpire in a way that was permanent, meaning that Takaba's technique is active. It's notably whenever he sort of fights back that the technique goes in, as Kenjaku says in 239. What? What just happened? I've never sensed this before. I feel like my attack worked, but it didn't have an effect. So, attacks can land on Takaba. We see that he actually can take damage. We see this in the Hazunoki fight where he eats an explosion for Megami, and he does seem to spurt just a little bit, but then the very next panel he's healed. So even in a domain case scenario, since domains don't appear to shut down active techniques, or techniques that don't just exist continuously until shut down by domains, only techniques that are able to act out of a non-passive nature are the ones that are able to be used within domains. We see this way back in Dagon's domain. We see this with every domain clash ever. Like whenever a person is domain clashing, they're using their technique within another technique. We see this even as recently as the Gojo versus Sukuna battle, not just in the domain factor, but very specifically when Gojo pulled up with the red while still inside the confines of Malevolent Shrine. Despite the fact that he was in a domain, he was able to use a technique. Now, notably, I had headcanon this as like, oh, well, it's an RCT-based technique, so maybe domains don't neutralize that. But it doesn't seem to be that way, just because, well, Gojo could use many different abilities inside a dual domain clash, and it seems like domains don't inherently shut down techniques like that, so even Kenjaku's divine domain in the Perilous domain is pretty much worthless in terms of actually executing Takaba. And so will all Cursed Spirits be useless, and so will the Gravity technique be useless, and so will the Unknown Fourth technique, unless it's literally a rip out of Gege's behind, oh, by the way, I have a fourth technique that can negate reality manipulation kind of technique. Takaba is fundamentally immortal, and Kenny can't get rid of him. At the same time, Kenny, by proxy of fighting Takaba, is fundamentally immortal, and he cannot get rid of him. So we're in this weird stalemate, where technically, neither of these characters can win, because neither of them have a win con. However, I don't think that's an entirely good thing for one of these characters, and that's Kenjaku. The reason I say this, and the reason I can take a guess on why they sent Takaba first, is not just for the fact that he's a pseudo-immortal, not just the fact that, well, they don't want to waste anyone too serious just yet. They gotta save Yuta, they've gotta save Maki, they gotta save every single one of their other heavy hitters for Sukuna, now that, certain things have transpired within the manga, but also for the fact that Kenny has a limited cursed energy pool. Kenny, unlike Yuta, does not have something that can supply him with boundless cursed energy. Kenny can run out. So, despite neither character having a win con, Takaba simply being there, Takaba getting Kenny to burn curses, burn RCT on the gravity technique, burn regular CE on the gravity or the anti-gravity technique, burn CE on domain, essentially just wearing Kenjaku down will leave Takaba pretty much no worse for wear. His cursed energy seems to fluctuate as he needs it, relative to whatever he needs to do for the nature of his technique. But Kenny, as mysterious and mischievous and devious as this man is, he does not have infinite cursed energy. Nowhere near. And ultimately, this means that Takaba doesn't have to win. He just doesn't have to lose. And here's the thing, right? Even with this being my theoretical reason why they send Takaba, this doesn't automatically guarantee our cast the dub. Because the moment Kenny realizes that, wait a minute, I can't actually execute this guy, he can just leave. Like, he can just vacate. He could just vanish from the battlefield. And don't get me wrong, Takaba was able to find him, and seemingly Mei and crew was able to find him without any sort of special weird tactics or anything. Like Uyui seemingly just teleported Takaba in. It was no issue. So maybe wherever Kenny runs, he can't hide from Father Takaba. But at the same time, this battle probably won't have too much of a detriment. I kind of see is going to be a weird thing. I don't want to spoil it exactly because it hasn't come out in the anime yet. But there's another very popular recent shonen series that had a character that was there to nebulously weaken a major antagonist. Did it matter all too much? I don't know. It's yet to be laid out, really, within the context of the other manga I'm referring to. If you know, you know. But in the case of that manga, the character that was sent there to, wear down the main antagonist in their ability kit, they were a lot more mortal than they were immortal. Let's put that lightly. And ultimately, their mortality ended up costing them. Meanwhile, Takaba's pseudo-immortality can essentially allow for an endless battle state. Think of this as the ultimate training mode battle. Like, sure, everything can be dropped. Both characters essentially have unlimited bar, except not really. Takaba is the only one with unlimited bar, and Kenjaku is going to be slowly wearing down, slowly running out of energy. And ultimately, Takaba can just keep stalling. There's no reason for him not to. He can just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. But my thing is, right, obviously, that's the nice idea. That's the nice, neat, beautiful, scrumdiddlyumptious idea that could end up working. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to bring up a very similar argument that I did in that other series when X character came to fight the main villain. And I'm going to bring up an argument I brought up with Kashimo when he was going to fight Sukuna. If I had to put these two characters on pedestals in tiers in terms of their narrative weight, Kenjaku would be the size of a blue whale. Takaba would be the size of a minnow. So ultimately, I don't actually see much of this battle really doing anything, especially considering how smart Kenjaku is, for one, and two, Takaba's lack of ability to actually do serious damage to him, and three, the fact that Kenny has some of the most reserves in the series, or is just super duper optimal with his cursed energy. Remember, this is the same man who was spamming RCT, not just to heal his body, but to also fuel the gravity technique, or really make the gravity technique by fueling the anti-gravity technique with RCT, and drop a reverse curse technique domain if you assume that the domain that Kenjaku used is the gravity technique, and ultimately the gravity technique is born of RCT, so he may have dropped the first and only RCT fueled domain in the entire series, and on top of that, he kept spamming curses and kept spamming the gravity technique afterwards. Kenjaku has insane amounts of curse energy. He has literally 10 million curses according to the data book, 10 million balls swallowed, and thusly he does not really have to entertain Takaba. There's no reason for him to stay there. And also, I think Gege, in all their insanity, right? In all their madness, their buku bonkerness, in their, I just feel like off-screening everybody. I really don't care how these characters conclude, whatever. I don't see him doing Kenny like that. I really don't. At best, if I'm being completely honest with you, what I think this battle is from a meta-narrative perspective, a ludo-narrative perspective, where I'm looking at it from outside the plot, I think this is literally a stall tactic. Not just by the characters within the narrative, using Takaba as a stall tactic to wear down Kenjaku, so heavy hitters like Yuta, heavy hitters like Maki, heavy hitters like maybe even Akari if he wins the Urume fight, or who knows, if Sukuna ends up falling, even heavy hitters like Yuji and Higuruma could come in and actually do serious damage to him, considering they have actual win cons on him. I don't really think it's gonna matter all too much. I think this is literally just a breaking point. And if anything, this fight will be used to establish the new variation of Kenjaku's arsenal, if it's changed at all from the fight that's realistically only about 30-ish chapters ago now. Like, remember, the battle between Yuki and Kenjaku was not that long ago, for our time period even. So ultimately, I do really see this battle kind of being meaningless. In the grand scheme of things. Don't get me wrong, I love both of these characters. I love both of these crazy, insane goofballs. But I don't think anything's going to come of it. I don't think... It's just ultimately, I don't think Kenjaku is going to fall here. I don't think Gege is going to drain all of Kenjaku's energy. I don't think that Takaba is going to be able to be used by Gege to drain all of Kenjaku's energy. I don't think Takaba is going to be able to actually execute Kenjaku. Yet I don't think, ironically enough, despite Gege's penchant for rampant slaughter of characters, I don't think he's gonna slaughter Takaba. Notably, I'll give Gege this. He typically slaughters characters that people care about. Think about it. Nanami, Gojo, Mahito. There are Mahito fans out there. Don't be shocked. Put that face down. Don't you look at me that way. There are Mahito fans out there. I may or may not be one of them. Heck, think about every single, even Junpei. People are still mad about Junpei's death like years upon years later. Nobara. No, I get it. Nobara may or may not be alive. Yuki Tsukumo. There are very specific kinds of characters that Gege is willing to. And ultimately, I don't see Takaba being on that list. Not just for the fact that I don't think he's important enough to perish, but also I think it would kind of contradict the nature of his character. And don't get me wrong, Gege is no stranger to bending rules in order to override certain abilities for characters. He's clearly not. But even still, I see this battle kind of resulting in nothing. No victory, no loss, no nothing. For various reasons. The in-universe reasons of these two characters have no win cons on each other. The external meta-narrative reasons to where Kenjaku is simply too important to fall to Takaba. In terms of narrative weight, around a D-tier character compared to Kenjaku, who pretty much is the Gege self-insert. Kenjaku kind of wrote Jujutsu Kaisen. Still wouldn't be surprised if he ended up actually making Sukuna all those years ago. I just don't see it. There's just no way that Takaba wins. Or there's no way that Kenny wins, and there's no way that Takaba's actually used effectively to wear down Kenny to the point where he's an easy dub. Because I do think we have to see the merger. I do think that does have to pop off. And without Kenny, the merger isn't happening. If anything, I may make a separate video about this. I see Takaba accidentally starting the merger. I know that sounds weird, but think about it. What is Kenjaku's main motivation for the merger? He just wants to see what it is. And what is Takaba capable of doing? Manifesting things that are funny to him into reality. So wouldn't it be so crazy if Kenjaku were to explain his plan and mention that how funny it would be if the cursed conglomerate just had a funny old face? And then Takaba imagined it. And then everything went down. However, those are my thoughts on the battle between Takaba and Kenjaku. I don't really see this battle going anywhere. I think this is mainly a stalling tactic, so we don't actually have to jump to the Sukuna versus Higuruma and Itadori battle. What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comment section down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave comedic backshots in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also I do have a Patreon down below. It's for as low as $1 a month. Get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Wakanda Plays, Red Wolf 4765, and Burp Skills. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, and Demex LND. And I'd like to give a fat, hefty thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, and Idemokami. And I'd like to give another hefty thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. And another big fat scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our $25 patrons, Igneal and Calvin Elder.